Thanks for watching and liking the video. When the boss walked onto the stage, I knew this was the moment I'd been waiting for. I just didn't know it would break me. He smiled, then said, "We're excited to announce Julia Randall is our new product director, and we want to thank Mark for his contribution to her development." I felt my throat tighten, like something inside it just broke. My name's Mark Elliott. I'm 47. For 5 years, I wasn't just another employee, I was Northbridge. The company built tech systems for big corporate clients, banks, real estate developers, logistics companies. Nothing creative or glamorous, just clean, efficient work that kept their operations running. I lived inside that world. Every deal, every failure, every late-night fix, I was there. I gave up weekends, missed birthdays. There were months when my kids saw me only asleep on the couch. My wife used to stand in the doorway, saying, "Mark, when do you finally shut that laptop and look at us?" And I'd answer the same thing every time. "Almost done. Just a little longer." Because I believed what my boss told me. "You'll be next," he said. "You've earned it." That sentence, "you've earned it," was all I needed. It became the reason I kept going when everyone else left the office. When servers crashed at 3 in the morning, I was the one on the floor fixing it. When clients threatened to pull million-dollar contracts, I was the one taking the call. Not because I wanted applause, because I thought loyalty worked both ways. In 5 years, I never asked for a raise. Never said no. I built entire client systems from scratch, trained new hires, cleaned up the messes no one wanted to touch. I didn't even take my vacation days. My calendar was a solid block of gray. I told myself it was temporary, just until the promotion came through. Then I'd finally slow down. I remember the first time my boss hinted at it publicly. He told a client, "Mark basically runs the product side already." The client laughed and said, "Then make it official." My boss smiled, patted me on the shoulder, and said, "Soon." That single word carried me for another year. Sometimes I'd imagine the day it would happen, walking into that corner office, shaking hands, proving that hard work could still mean something. No family connections, no shortcuts, just effort. I wanted my kids to see that too. That's what I told myself whenever I heard them playing in the yard while I was still typing up reports. I kept pushing, believing that one day the long nights would add up to something. That the sacrifices, the distance from my wife, the constant pressure, the quiet resentment building in the house, would make sense in the end. That's why, standing there under those lights, when my boss said Julia's name instead of mine, everything inside me went still. I didn't move, didn't speak, just watched people clap. And for the first time in 5 years, I realized I had built an empire for someone else. A year before that night, the boss called me into his office. He said, "My daughter's moving back from grad school. She wants to see how the company works. Teach her a few things, okay?" He said it casually, like asking me to show someone where the printer was. I didn't think twice. Julia Randall, 28, sharp suit, confident smile, the kind of confidence you get from knowing doors will open before you knock. MBA from some East Coast university. She talked fast, made notes in color-coded folders, and kept saying things like, "I want to learn the business side, not just the theory." At first, I thought she meant it. I spent time with her every day, explaining systems, showing her client reports, walking her through the CRM integrations. I even shared templates I'd built over the years, the ones that kept our biggest accounts running smoothly. When she didn't understand something, I'd cover for her in meetings. When she missed a deadline, I'd step in, finish the work, and send it off under her name. I told myself it was part of being a leader, helping someone new find their footing. Besides, the boss trusted me with it, and trust meant everything in that place. I figured she'd stick around for a few months, pick up some real-world experience, then move on. But she didn't move on. Slowly, her name started showing up in places mine used to be. Project decks, email threads, even the client summary reports I'd written. One day, she presented one of my proposals at a management review. I was standing right there, and she didn't mention me once. When she finished, the boss said, "That's great work, Julia." And she smiled, not at him, but at me, like she wanted me to know she'd won something. I brushed it off, told myself not to be petty. She was learning, and maybe this was just part of the process. Still, something in my gut started to turn. The way people looked at her in meetings, like she was already somebody. The way she'd talk about her team, even though half the people she meant still reported to me. By late spring, she was on every big call. When new clients came in, the boss would introduce her as the future of the department. I laughed it off at first, thinking it was just family pride. But behind that smile, I could see it. He wasn't joking. I kept working the same way. Long hours, full commitment, no shortcuts. But there was a moment I'll never forget. She walked into my office holding one of my old project binders. She said, "I didn't realize you documented everything this thoroughly. That's impressive." Then she closed it, smiled, and said, "It's going to make the transition so much easier." I didn't ask what transition she meant. Deep down, I already knew. The morning HR sent out that meeting invite, I didn't think much of it. The subject line read, "Department Structure Announcement." That kind of thing happened all the time. New titles, reshuffled org charts, maybe a few promotions. I figured it was finally my turn. I even ironed my shirt the night before. My wife noticed and said, "That's the one you wore to your first day there." I smiled. "Maybe it's lucky," I said. She wished me good luck, and for the first time in months, I actually felt it. By noon, the office was buzzing. Someone mentioned catering was being set up in the conference hall. There were trays of sandwiches, bottles of sparkling water, and those little cupcakes they only brought out for big announcements. HR posted a sign by the door that said, "All staff." When the time came, the room filled fast. I stood near the back, next to the projector, where I always stood, not trying to be seen, just to watch the team. I'd worked beside most of them for years. They knew how much I'd given to this place. I thought they'd be cheering for me soon. Then the boss walked in. Gray suit, calm expression, holding the mic like he'd done this 1,000 times. He talked about growth, about change, about the importance of fresh perspectives. I felt my heart beating faster. The words all sounded like a prelude, like the build-up before the big announcement. Then he smiled. "We're thrilled to announce," he said, "that Julia Randall will be stepping into the role of product director." There was a second of silence before the applause started. Someone whistled. A few people clapped hard, like they were at a wedding. Then came the second part, the one that hit me like a punch I never saw coming. He said, "And we'd like to thank Mark for his contribution to her development." That line echoed in the room. Her development. I didn't move, didn't clap. My palms were sweating, but the rest of me felt frozen. I could see people glancing my way, some awkward, some pretending not to notice. Julia smiled from the front row, her hands clasped politely, her posture perfect. She looked proud. A phone flashed. Someone took a photo. I saw the light bounce across the wall behind me. A few seconds later, a notification popped on the screen of the guy next to me. A story posted, "Congrats, Julia. New product director. Hashtag Northbridge Life." My chest tightened. I couldn't swallow. It felt like there was something sharp lodged in my throat, pressing harder each time I tried to breathe. I stayed there until the applause faded. People started talking again, moving around, shaking hands. I kept my eyes on the floor, the carpet pattern blurring. 5 years. Every late night. Every missed dinner. All of it, reduced to a footnote in her story. After the meeting, the boss asked me to stop by his office. His voice was calm, almost friendly, like nothing unusual had just happened. I walked in and closed the door behind me. The sound of people still laughing in the hallway felt miles away. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "Mark," he said, "I know this isn't what you expected, but I want you to understand, this isn't a step back. It's a shift." A shift. That's what he called it. He started talking about refocusing responsibilities, about how the company needed someone with my experience to handle client partnerships more directly. He said it like he was offering me a favor. A new position, less pressure, more strategic involvement. I just watched him. He kept going, saying, "You're irreplaceable, Mark. I mean that. We just think Julia can bring a new energy to the product side, while you strengthen our client relationships. It's a win-win." That phrase, win-win, sounded like static in my ears. I thought about the nights I spent building that product roadmap from scratch, the systems I stayed up fixing while his daughter was probably asleep in some warm apartment, dreaming about being a leader. He smiled, waiting for me to say something. All I said was, "I'm not negotiating." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm done." The air went still. For a second, he didn't react. Then he tried to soften his tone. Come on, Mark. Don't do anything rash. Let's take a few days. Think about the title, the package. I shook my head. My decision's final. He sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. You're making a mistake. Maybe I was. But at that moment, staying felt worse than leaving. I went back to my desk, opened my email, and typed up my resignation. 2 weeks' notice. Straightforward, no explanations. I didn't know them one. I sent it, then sat there for a minute, staring at my inbox, half expecting some kind of reply, an apology, a thank you, something human. Nothing came. Those last 2 weeks weren't for them. They were for the clients. The ones who trusted me. The ones I couldn't just disappear on. I spent every day closing out reports, organizing files, writing handover notes so no one would be left guessing. People stopped by my desk to say goodbye. Some whispered that they didn't agree with the decision. Others avoided eye contact. Julia didn't come by at all. Not once. When my last day came, I left my badge on the desk and walked out without looking back. I wasn't leaving for a better job. I wasn't chasing anything. I was just refusing to stay somewhere that no longer respected what I'd built. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like silence. Cold, heavy, honest silence. 2 days after I walked out, I got a call from one of our biggest clients. I almost didn't answer. The number flashed on my screen, familiar enough to hurt. But something in me said pick up. The voice on the other end was tight. Mark, what's going on over there? We just got an incomplete document package. Your new director said it's handled, but it's not. I opened my laptop out of habit. Checked my personal folder where I still had old templates. I could already see what had gone wrong. Missing signatures, wrong file versions, no audit trail. Rookie stuff. Stuff Julia never learned because I'd always cleaned it up before she saw it. The project at risk was worth around $180,000. If it fell apart, the client could walk. And once one left, the rest would start to question everything. I didn't know Northbridge anything, but I owed the client my word. So I got in my car and drove back. No permission, no invitation. Just walked into the lobby like I never left. People stared when I passed. No one stopped me. I found Julia in the conference room, surrounded by papers and 2 nervous analysts. She looked up, surprised. Mark, I thought. I know, I said. Just let me see what you sent them. She hesitated, then slid the folder across the table. I scanned it. Half the files were mislabeled. The client's system would have rejected the upload instantly. I didn't waste time explaining. I just started fixing it, renaming, cross-checking, filling gaps. The analysts watched, silent. Julia stood there, trying to look composed, but her hands were shaking. After an hour, I uploaded the corrected set, copied the client contact, and wrote a short message. Updated documents attached. Confirming compliance with the revised specs. 5 minutes later, they replied with a thumbs up. Contract saved. No one said thank you. Julia whispered. I didn't mean, but I cut her off. It's fine. Just make sure they don't pay for your learning curve. Then I left. That night, messages started coming in. From clients, from vendors, even a few team members. One read, "We trust you, not the logo." Another said, "If you ever go out on your own, we'll follow." I sat there reading them, one after another. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like clarity. Titles, offices, handshakes, all of that could be taken. What couldn't was trust. For years, I'd believed power came from a position. That night, I understood. A title is decoration. Trust is currency. And I still had plenty of it. The next morning, I got an email from the boss. Short, clipped sentences. We need to talk. Urgent. I knew what it meant before opening it. When I walked into his office, he didn't offer a seat. He just stood behind his desk, holding a printout of client messages. My messages. You know what this looks like, Mark? He said. It looks like sabotage. I didn't flinch. I didn't call anyone. They called me. He tossed the paper down. You left this company and started poaching our accounts. Don't pretend it's innocent. I took a breath. I didn't take anything from you. They reached out because they don't trust how you're running things. That's on you, not me. He stared at me for a long second. You're burning bridges you'll never rebuild. I said quietly. You already burned them when you lied. There was nothing else to say. I walked out before he could reply. That afternoon, HR sent a message asking me to return my laptop. Apparently, someone forgot I'd already done that 2 weeks ago. Then Julia texted. Just one line. Can we talk? I almost ignored it. But curiosity won. She met me in a coffee shop a few blocks away. No designer suit this time, just jeans and a tired face. She didn't order anything. She said, "He's blaming you for everything. The missed deadlines, the client complaints. He told people you're trying to bring him down." I asked, "And what do you think?" She looked down. I think I wasn't ready for this. I thought I could handle it, but every day feels like I'm just cleaning up something I don't understand. For a second, I saw the same person I'd trained a year earlier, full of ideas, but not ready for what came with them. I told her, "You're not the enemy. Just stop pretending you built what you didn't." She nodded, eyes wet but steady. "I know." I left without saying goodbye. Later that night, I sat in my kitchen, staring at my phone. My name was still popping up in chat groups, people asking where I'd gone, whether I was starting something new. I didn't answer. The truth was, I didn't feel angry anymore. Just empty. The company that had been my life for 5 years was already rewriting its version of me, turning my loyalty into a threat, my silence into guilt. But there was a kind of freedom in that too. Once you're blamed for everything, you stop trying to defend yourself. And somewhere inside that quiet, I finally started to breathe again. A few weeks later, I got a message from a name I hadn't seen in years, Carmen Diaz. She was now the CEO of Invertex Group, a mid-sized firm making bold moves in the same market Northbridge used to dominate. I'd worked with her once on a joint project years ago. Back then, she was a director with sharp instincts and zero patience for corporate games. Her message was simple: "Heard what happened. Let's talk." We met in her office 2 days later. No formal interview, no long introductions. She got straight to it. "I need someone who knows how to build systems, not just talk about them. You were always that guy." She leaned forward. 40% higher salary. Full autonomy. Company car. No politics. "You in?" I didn't need time to think. I said yes. It wasn't about revenge. It was about movement, the feeling of being useful again. Carmen didn't ask for loyalty speeches or fancy decks. She said, "You deliver, we move forward." That's it. That was all I needed. My first assignment hit almost like irony. The project was one Northbridge had turned down years ago, a complicated integration for a regional logistics company. I remembered it well. I'd pushed for it, but my old boss said it was too small to matter. Carmen thought otherwise. I built the plan myself. No hierarchy, no approvals. Just me, a small team, and a tight deadline, 3 weeks. The first few days felt strange. No one watching over me, no one trying to take credit. Just work. The kind I'd missed. I slept less, but this time it didn't feel like sacrifice. Every night, I left the office knowing something was actually being built. The client called after the first demo and said, "We've never seen a rollout this smooth." It was the first time in months I'd heard genuine excitement in someone's voice. By the end of week 3, the system was live. No bugs, no delays, no noise. Carmen walked into my office that evening, tossed me a set of keys, and said, "The car's in the garage. Go home." Then she smiled, the kind of smile that comes from respect, not obligation. Driving home that night, I passed Northbridge's old building. The lights were still on, like always. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. I wasn't chasing validation anymore. I had it. Not from a title, not from applause, but from the quiet certainty that I'd built something real again. And this time, no one could take it from me. 2 months into my new job, I got an email from a journalist at an industry magazine. The subject line said, "Northbridge loses major clients. Comment?" For a second, I just stared at it. Then I closed my laptop. I wasn't going to feed that story. The next day, the article went live anyway. Someone sent me the link. The headline was brutal: "Northbridge's downfall. Leadership gamble gone wrong." I told myself not to read it, but of course I did. Every line felt like déjà vu: delayed contracts, canceled renewals, frustrated clients moving to competitors, quotes from unnamed insiders saying the company had lost its edge. Julia's name was all over it. The story mentioned her failed presentation at the city council meeting, the one that was supposed to seal a multi-million-dollar contract. The article said she'd stumbled over basic compliance details, mixed up the zoning requirements, and froze under pressure. Someone posted a video clip online. 30 seconds of silence while a room full of officials waited for her to speak. I didn't finish watching it. Later that afternoon, Carmen stopped by my office. She dropped her phone on my desk, the same article open on the screen. "You want to say anything about it?" she asked. I shook my head. "No." She smiled. "Good. Let them bury themselves. We've got work to do." That night, I sat in my car for a while before driving home. The parking lot was empty. My phone buzzed. Messages from old coworkers, some apologetic, some bitter. One said, "You were right." Another, "Wish I'd left when you did." I didn't reply to any of them. I thought about Julia, how she'd stood in that conference room months earlier, trying so hard to look like she belonged. How terrified she must have been now, with the same people who once applauded her now whispering behind her back. I didn't feel satisfaction, just a quiet kind of distance. The next week, word spread that the board had removed my old boss. Official reason: strategic misalignment. Everyone knew what it really meant. Contracts falling apart, clients gone, reputation in freefall. Someone from HR, one of the few who still had my number, called to tell me. She said, "You probably heard. It's over here." "Yeah," I said. "I heard." After the call, I sat there for a long time, thinking how fast things can collapse when they're built on anything but honesty. I didn't reach out to anyone. I didn't need to. Northbridge had fallen, and for the first time since I'd left, I realized I didn't feel anger anymore. Just relief, because it was no longer my fight. A few weeks later, I stopped by a cafe near my office. Just wanted a coffee before heading home. It was one of those quiet places, soft lights, background music, no one in a hurry. I stood in line, half distracted, when I saw her. Julia, sitting by the window. She was different. No blazer, no perfect hair, no aura of someone trying to prove something. Just a gray hoodie, a laptop open, notebooks scattered across the table. I glanced closer, engineering textbooks, code snippets, diagrams. She was studying. Alone. Focused. For a second, I thought about walking out, pretending I hadn't seen her. But something stopped me. Maybe curiosity. Maybe closure. I picked up my coffee and walked over. She looked up before I could say anything. Her face froze for a moment, then softened. "Hey," she said quietly. I nodded. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I'm taking classes," she said, motioning to the books. "Starting over, I guess." I glanced at the screen, spreadsheets, project notes, handwritten formulas. "Looks like you're doing it the right way this time." She smiled faintly. "Trying to. It's different when you have to earn it yourself." For a moment, neither of us said anything. The noise of the espresso machine filled the silence. I could tell she wanted to explain, maybe apologize, but I didn't need it. I said, "Now you're doing the work. That matters." She nodded slowly. "You could have ruined me, you know. After everything. You didn't." I didn't answer. There wasn't anything to say. When she turned back to her screen, I could see she wasn't faking it anymore. No borrowed authority, no safety net. Just someone learning what I had to learn the hard way. That respect can't be inherited. I left a few dollars on the counter, took my coffee, and headed for the door. Before I stepped outside, I looked back once. She was still typing, head down, completely absorbed. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel anger. Not even pride. Just a quiet sense of balance, like a story that had finally found its last page. Outside, the evening air was cool. The city kept moving. Cars, people, everything carrying on as if none of it had happened. I stood there for a moment, coffee warming my hand, then started walking. Not faster, not slower, just forward. Thanks for staying till the end. What's your take on this story? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe. More true and hidden stories are coming soon.